Welcome to Pathways to Healing Counseling Facebook Live with Carol Braden, my very, very special guest today with Brooke's Place, as we're going to be talking about transforming grief into hope. And I am so grateful you are here joining us either live or on the replay. All are welcome in our space. If you have any questions as we go along, or you want to make a comment or share something, please feel free to do so in the chat. We take that as a sacred space for connection. And so we just welcome you. If you have anything at all that you are really, it's put on your heart to share, please feel free to do so today as we're talking about grief. And maybe it's going to bring up some memories or some emotions, and that's okay. Those are welcome here. So without further ado, I want to introduce my very special guest, Carol Braden. Carol, welcome to our Facebook Live today.
Thank you, Kristen. It's so wonderful to be here. Such an honor.
Thank you so much for your energy and your heart and your time and your presence here today to talk to us about a tough topic for many people. And we tend to want to kind of shy away from it. First, I wanted to start with, if you could share a little bit about your journey into the work that you're doing at Brooke's Place and how you were led there. That would be wonderful.
Oh, Kristen, that's exactly it. I really do feel led. I felt led, still feel led. And it's really based on every person I keep meeting here that is a part of the Brooks Place family. I started at Brooks Place 21, or actually 22 years ago as an intern. 21 years I had the honor to become a part of our staff. And I am in the programs area. So have just had the absolute honor to have met with countless, thousands of children, ages 3 all the way through our young adult age, which we call 18 to 29, and their adult caregivers who have experienced the death of somebody important to them. And we really see them as our teachers. And just my whole journey to get to Brooks Place, I was actually a high school teacher for 10 years before Brooks Place, but my heart was always leading into the direction of some type of counseling. At 14 years old, I knew that, but I just didn't know what I didn't know. And fast forward, I've been, Brooks Place ever since. And year after year, I have so much more passion for what we do. And we have grown a lot from the standpoint of we have so many more persons involved in serving our grieving community, because there are so many who are craving, support and counseling, and craving that sense of, I need to know I'm not alone. I need to know that I can take this breath and breathe it out, and I've got a sense of hope to move forward. Grief's definitely not one day at a time. It is not. It's hardly even that breath in and breath out. So just very much grateful to be here. Brooks Place itself started in 1999. Pam Wright was our first executive director and founder, and my forever mentor. And she, along with other amazing individuals, had the foresight that our community needs something ongoing for children, teens, and young adults in this sphere of grieving the death of somebody important to us. And along with incredible financial backing and the ability to get a 501c3 to have a nonprofit status, we were birthed 1999. So I guess you call us a young adult right now, as I can just hear Pam Wright say, right? Because
I
it's
can't tell. Yes.
2021. And but Brooks Place right now, we have support groups. We have ongoing support groups. We have short-term support groups, which is our outreach program called BP8, where we go into the community and have a short-term program. And we also have Camp Healing Tree. We have therapy services. And all of our programming is centered around the death of somebody important to you. We don't decide who that is. You know if that person was important to you. We are all about, Kristen, we're all about empowering our persons about thriving in the midst of their grief. It's their grief journey. It's not mine. It's their grief journey. And our people are coming to us in truly the most rawest, most vulnerable times in their life. We don't know them, right? And they're coming to us feeling so raw, so vulnerable. And the core level is, well, what do I say to my children? How do I support them when I'm grieving so much? And so Brooke's Place scoops people up and says, you know what? We don't have the answers. We don't. But we will give you this safe space to be with others who, as peer to peer, you get to work through and let out your grief how you need to. What we really say is, as long as you're not hurting yourself or other people, you really get to grieve how you need to. You want to sit under a table, sit under a table, right?
Mhm.
You may not be able to stand on it. There it's like, okay. But let out your grief how you need to. It's the letting out, what people keep teaching us. It's the letting out,
Mhm.
however it looks like to you, that's healing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
powerful.
empowering other people to thrive in the midst of their own grief.
Because they don't feel like they're thriving. They've
No.
one griever said, I feel like I get gut punched every moment. It's like a gut punch.
Yes. Oh, gut punch. Yes. What you're saying right there, that's so powerful, because you know what we knew before, we cannot get our being wrapped around what we know now. So it's that gut punch is like that. It's real. It's real
Yes.
over and over and over, because we don't get it, do we? We don't get it when it has happened. I have chills right now just talking about it.
Yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah, very powerful. Yeah. And when we know things in life, that gives us safety and security, especially if they're healthy things, right?
Hmm.
And then when somebody that was such a significant part of our, not every day, but every moment of our everyday, that person played a role, and now they have died. And oh, that gap is even if there's silence, it is, it is so difficult to listen to, right? So powerfully loud and scary and unknown. And when we think of the differences, because there's tremendous differences between how children and teens grieve than adults do.
Can you walk us through those?
Oh,
Because
I'd
I think that would be
love
really
to.
important to
I'd love
highlight
to.
those.
Oh, I'd love to, Kristen. Yeah. So, what we talk about, how it's a myth that children and teens, they look like they're okay. Grieving children and teens, they look like they're okay. We'll hear this, so they must be okay.
Hmm.
Well, what I'd love to share right now is that's in a simple way, that's not the point. Okay. What we do know, and we don't, you talk about how, it's not good to assume, right? Well, one thing that it's been safe to assume so far is, what I've been taught is that if you know of a child, a teen, a young adult, at any point in their life, it could have even been when they were born, could have even been before they were born, okay, that they have had somebody in their life who was important to them or was supposed to be important to them who died, they are going to be impacted. That's the part to assume. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be impacted for the rest of their lives. That's the big part, for the rest of their lives. So then the next layers, we get to be along for the journey if a person lets us be. Okay, meaning they'll teach us what is the impact like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, in all those ways. I'm probably missing a Lee there, but you get what I'm trying to say. So then when you think of a child, a teen, a young adult, their brains are just being developed. Okay, grief in and of itself is complicated. Everybody's is. How we actually can be supportive for a grieving person is actually, I'll tell you a little secret.
I love the secret.
It's not a secret, but I'll tell you a secret. Show up.
Yes.
Show up and just say, you know what? I'm here. I care about you. My heart is breaking for you. And I'm here. That right there is doing, and that's saying something very powerful. We can get in our own way to help somebody who's grieving. But to jump back a little bit, talk about children and teens. Okay, they grieve. The only way that they can grieve is, from a 5-year-old's lens. I only have 5 years of life experience, and they're 5 very powerful years. Some 5-year-olds, they're pretty mighty. And the ones who are, especially, goodness, when we think of developmental age, that's what I'm talking about. A developmentally 5-year-old child, they know a lot, and they grieve powerfully at 5 years old. But here's the thing: hopefully, they're going to be 6 and 7 and 10 and 15 and 20 and 25 and 30 and so on. And so what happens is I am grieving intensely at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I am how I can grieve at that time. And thank goodness our little brains can't grieve any deeper than they can until they get to those developmental ages. But here's what happens. The older I do get, the bigger my grief becomes. Mm-hmm. The more and more clear it is. So that's what leads a child to have what we call re-grieving, or it's not just re-grieving, but it's grieving differently at every developmental milestone I'm going through. Because now, I don't know if you experienced this, Kristen, but for me, I always want to be older. I'm a youngest of 5. I don't know if that's a part of it, but I just couldn't. I remember the magic age when I was a kid, 18. I thought that was the age. Now you and I know, like, wouldn't that be great?
Exactly.
Right?
Can we go back and not have all these responsibilities? Yeah.
Right. I turned 18. I'm like, okay, I really think I know everything, but I don't know anything. Anyway, so with that, in that those age, I get a little sidetracked myself. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So as we're developing we're going along that developmental continuum, the grief can get bigger because we can process it now, because our brains are more integrated, they're more developed. Yes. And so the grief can grow.
Oh, you are so amazing and such a good listener. Yes. That's exactly it. Yeah. Right? So my grief is so mighty when I'm 3, and yet when I'm 15, that might be when some really intense doses are coming out of me, and my teachers are noticing some things, and my school counselors are. And so we could say, oh, her mom died when she was 3. Surely that isn't it. See, that's a myth. Yeah. It's like, no, surely that is it. And maybe other factors too, right? Definitely. One being, now I'm 15. That in and of itself, if you don't have anything else going on. is enough. But when you add to all the aspects, for just using that as an example, all the aspects of being 15, of having even more of an awareness of yourself and separate from a parent, um, gaining more independence, having even more of that, what you said earlier, that punch in the gut, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could start feeling that more intensely at 15, even when your loved one died at 6, 7, 3. And you're like, what's going on with me? What's wrong with me? When
What's
it's like,
wrong with me? Rather
there's
than what
not anything
happened to
wrong.
me, like what happened in my life, it's what's wrong with me.
Right. And
That
it's like,
happened a long time ago.
no, you said it. You said it. It's like, how could that be, possibly bothering me now? And yet we need people around us, like whoever's listening right now, to say, oh my gosh, I get it. I get it. That's natural. One of our principles is that grief is a natural reaction to the death of somebody for all ages, and whenever that happened. Um, I When I use the example of somebody, a child who whose mom dies, giving birth to them, their entire life is filled with their grief and with that longing, um, for their person who died. But yeah.
Yeah. So an adult, like as you kind of have the childhood, you have adolescence, and then you have adulthood, like kind of
Mm,
18 and 29, I think you said something in that range.
I did.
What does it look, how does it look different for them? The 18 to kind of 29.
Oh, I love that. Well, I love every age. You'll hear me say that, but our 18 to 29s. So, they, keeping in mind when they're that age, they could have experienced death or deaths of multiple people, prior to that, or it could have been in the midst of that age. But let's say you are a young adult, 18 to 20 something, living with the death of an important person, right? Well, you are an adult. And so likely you have so many more adult responsibilities. You could be completely on your own at that point in time. You could be, in that in between, whether you're, you leave high school and you go off to college, or you go off to a career without going to college, you're going to have probably more adult responsibilities. So in that, a lot of messages you can take in, whether you're giving them to yourself or you're literally hearing them from others, or you think you have to take care of your grief all by yourself too, because I'm an adult. And maybe we haven't quite learned, or maybe we have, it depends on the person, but we can definitely have this thinking that I'm this adult, so I should do it by myself. I shouldn't ask for help. And um, and one thing we find from our young adults, and this is very typical because it's not until we're 18 to 25 that our frontal lobe starts attaching, and that frontal lobe is really important. You know it, Kristen.
Oh, yes. That
Right.
executive function starts
Yes.
really fully developed until we're 25. Doesn't fully develop till 25.
Yes. Yes.
Logic.
Reasoning
Yeah.
skills.
Mm-hmm.
And so that impacts our 18 to 20s so much anyway, where people, you'll hear people say, that age thinks they're very invincible. Well, they really do. That's just it. They really do. You're right. And
Mm-hmm.
so when they're grieving, that pain is so strong, and they can be in the midst of a lot of their peers still at that time, but they may still have quite a sense that they feel very alone in their grief. And really strong things to watch for are those risky types of behaviors, because in young adulthood, we're practicing, who am I? I know as an adult, we're still trying to figure that out, but it is very different in our 20s. And so, what has already happened in our 20s? Have we all, do we have a child in our 20s or children? Have we gotten married in our 20s? How did my grief journey impact all those decisions?
Just so important.
So important. There's so many questions. I'm very much more in the moment with everything in life in my 20s. The way I think, the way I make plans, the way I grieve, very much in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's listening, and they want to, one, maybe they've gone through their own grief journey
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to sort out those grief bursts that come up, or
Yeah.
how they process the grief, or maybe they're supporting somebody along the grief journey. Let's start with the person maybe going through grief.
Mm-hmm.
And how it depends on their age. You were saying they're going to grief looks different depending on the developmental stage they're at. And that's
Yes.
one of the really important pieces to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Mm-hmm.
that what I'm hearing? Like, that's really
Absolutely.
important. And
There. Oh, you said it.
let's say you have a teen, for example, that doesn't really want to talk about it,
Oh,
because this seems to be, right, a theme. The teens have trouble maybe naming how they're feeling. And
yeah.
so what would you just say to somebody that's not wanting to deal with, like, not wanting to go there
Oh, yes.
because they're afraid or it's too intense? What would you say to somebody that's in grief that's scared to go there?
I adore that person you're talking to right now. I just adore them. Are we saying like maybe a teen?
Maybe a teen. We're just
Maybe
going
a
to put
teen.
teen on
Just
there
put. I mean,
because
I can.
teens
We can
are
go with
have a
any
hard time
age.
anyways. And then you add grief on top of it.
Oh yeah. I'm with that teen, and I am meeting that teen right where they're at. I don't. Here's what I don't do. I don't have this agenda in my being that says I'm going to try to get them to talk. I don't. I'm not thinking, okay, I'm going to try to. If we're in a group, I'm not going to try to get them to move from the corner into the rest of the circle with everybody else. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking, I really want this teenager to feel accepted, cared for. They're not hurting themselves or anybody else. This is huge. They are 16 years old. I'm making this up, obviously,
Yeah.
but I'm not. So I'm going to say to them, let's say they've said it out loud. I hear you say you don't want to talk about it. I hear you say you don't want to, you're tired of people asking you to talk about it. You're tired of people saying they're sorry. You don't want to be around other people who are so sad. And you know what? I tell you what, of the 16-year-olds that I've met, almost all of them say the same thing. They really do. I am telling you what, you be you. This is a big deal. You got plenty of time to talk about it whenever you want, because you know what? Your grief is yours. It's not up to anybody else to decide when you want to talk about it. But you know what? So here's what I wonder. Okay, let's say you're spending time with this person, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but hey, here's what I wonder, because I honor that and I respect that. I respect that in a big, big way. In fact, our time together is not about you talking about anything in particular. It's really just about you. Okay. So there are a few activities. I don't know if you want to do an activity or not, but there's some activities that we have, and I would probably do it a lot more, less. It would be a lot more fluid than this.
Less
You know,
scripted, right? Yeah,
yes,
much more
I
organic.
would have already
Yes.
slid it in, right?
Yes.
And it goes to what's so significant is building rapport with somebody every time. Let's not think of it as, oh, the first two times I should build rapport with somebody. No, we're really called to build that rapport with somebody. A rapport, part of it is being safe,
Mhm.
and with our persons who are grieving, in their teenagers or their whatever developmental age, that's a hard place for me to be in. And so, create that safe rapport building each time you're getting to know them and helping them feel safe. But anyway, so really it's that core level of really meeting that person where they're at, and um, honoring right where they are. And I guarantee you will know they teach you next where to go. They really do, if you're really paying attention.
Yeah, they'll show you. And you're
Yeah.
not, the key there is no agenda,
Yes.
or getting him to name it. Or even if you're going through the grief, like giving yourself permission to go at your, however that looks for you.
Oh,
There's no right or wrong way to do it.
yeah. No.
There's no good, this is the good, because people want to say, am I doing it right? Is this
Yes.
okay? Is this not okay? Is this right to do? Should I feel this way? Shouldn't I feel
Yes.
this way? When they're
Yes.
in grief, should I be over it by now? I feel like I should be over it by now. It's the second anniversary. It feels worse than the first one. What?
Oh,
I shouldn't feel
yes.
like this. What's wrong with me?
Oh, all along the way, Kristen. You just said it.
Mhm.
All along the way. And then when you add on, I'm a child, I'm a teen who already, because I'm just developing, I'm already asking myself those questions all the time, right? Because I don't quite have the answers yet about, what what my stance is about who I am, and my yeses
Mhm.
and nos and maybe so's. And
Exactly. You're still discovering your own identity. One thing that was coming up for me as you were talking is I'm wondering too if you could talk to the teens that feel like I don't want to bring it up and upset mom or dad who's grieving, or
yes,
sibling. I don't want to bring it up because I don't want to make it worse for mom or dad who are already grieving, or insert whoever loved one. So
yes,
they don't bring it up in fear it will make it worse
yes.
for someone else.
Oh, yeah. So, you know what? That, when you're in a group setting, a really wonderful tool is to wonder that very thing to the group
Mhm.
and just say, I heard so and so say that, they're really kind of holding it together at home and don't want to share kind of the real depths of your feelings, right? Because you don't want to make your siblings sad, or your mom's or dad's crying and they're heartbroken so much anyway. You don't want to add to that. I wonder if anybody else can relate to that. So that's powerful. If you happen to have like that peer to peer support, if it's you and the individual, hear them. We do a lot of, I heard you say, and a person, well, what grieving people keep teaching us is they really like you to get their words correct.
Exactly.
But I
Use the
tell you
same
what,
words.
even if you don't, they'll
Mhm.
correct you. It's all good. Just just say, "Oh yeah, you didn't say upset. You said infuriated," and just move right into it. Okay? But in that, I would just say again, in that scenario you just gave, I'm not going to have this agenda that says, "Oh, how can I get this teenager to dot 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 to feel comfortable,
Mhm.
emoting at home the way they really feel." No, that's not the goal here. So what is the goal? Your teen that you just sat with, how powerful that they just shared this with you, right? I mean, that's a big deal. I would honor
Absolutely.
them. So that's a part of empowering, is saying, gosh, I mean, that's amazing that you have that insight. That is absolutely amazing that you have that insight, that you're holding it together so much that you don't want the people you love so much to hurt more, right? So here's what I wonder. I wonder, because you've taught me a lot, that you have a lot of grief in you. Okay. You were just sharing that. So I wonder what safe places or safe spaces or safe people do you have that you can really share those real feelings? And then, of course, you can also explore and say, is it something aside from that, which is so important, it's also saying, is it something that you want to work toward to be more real with your feelings or thoughts, within your family? Is it something you want? See, it's up to them.
Exactly.
They're probably saying that to you because they do want it, but they're trying to just figure it all. Everybody's trying to figure it all out.
Because they don't know what to do. They've never gone through this, or maybe they have and it was handled a certain way. They just don't know what to do or how to handle it.
You said it.
Mm-hmm.
You said it. And it goes back to that when Pam, right, when she did some work, created To Know, To Feel, To Do, when she talks about people going through the work of grief. And so when we have people go through training, we'll say, what is it like to know? When you really know something, what's it like? So you can imagine what people say. Oh, I feel comfortable. I feel safe. I feel confident, all those things. And it's like, okay, well, what do you think it's like to not know something that you did know when somebody important has died, right? You don't feel safe. You don't feel confident. You feel helpless. You feel all these things. And so then when we're experiencing death and we are just developing our brains and who we are, that completely alters us. We need all kinds of support. So our to know is very different. What we to knew used to know.
Yeah, because it's all different now.
All
But I
different
thought
now.
I knew, maybe even, or I just didn't even know at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's no roadmap to this journey. It's figuring it out. Figuring out what I know about it. We cannot even imagine, until what life really will be like until we enter into it.
Exactly. And a lot of times with the first, they go, well, I don't even know what to do. I'm like, of course you don't.
Exactly. I
Of
love
course
it.
you don't. And it's okay.
And
You won't
it's
know.
okay.
And yeah, just holding that space for that. So we have
Uh,
to know and then to feel. Was that the
yes.
to feel, right?
Uh-huh.
So tell us about the to feel. We have the to know. Tell us about the to feel.
Oh, I love it. So to feel, it is about feelings, but it's about so much more than that. So as a sensory being, I believe we have like 21 different parts of us that are we're a sensory being. So, our hearing, smelling, touching, tasting, all of those areas are broken down into a lot more details. So, to simplify for our talk, right? So, in that, when we have been impacted, by the death of somebody important to us, our feelings are impacted, but also our sensory system.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you remember the day that your person died? What do you remember about the funeral? Most of what our being remembers has very much to do with our senses. It doesn't mean we remember all of those sensory parts, or for some of us, um, we don't remember hardly any of those senses. My dear Papa died when I was 13 years old, and it bums me out when I try to remember my senses and what I remembered. I don't have a lot of memories, but who he was in my life, huge. So it just gives you an example. Not all people do have that memory of those senses, but those senses impact us, and they can keep us, if not worked upon, right there. Like it feels like we're right there.
Reliving the moment.
Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
so if I'm 10 and I woke up like I normally do, I just learned how to set my alarm, and I'm waking up and getting ready for school cuz I'm a little more independent at 10, and doing things. And yet, my dad usually gets up by now. I know mom, she's doing some other things, but usually I hear dad walking down the hall, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So then I stop and I run down the hall. Dad, what are you doing? You're usually down here by now, and I still don't hear anything. And I go into his room, and he's just laying there. And I go over and I'm shaking him. This is what our children deal with.
Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. And so right there in that moment, I'm 10. And let's say in that scenario, dad died. It's life before 10 and it's life after 10.
Yes.
And that's the part that just I think is so clear, why it's so significant for us to realize how grief is ongoing and how it's never too late to grieve, because our grief is really going on all the time. But it's never too late to get support. That's more of what I want to say. Um, but for that 10-year-old, when we think of his senses that could have
Mm-hmm.
been what happens is we get very infused in our senses. And some people say stuck. When I say that, I'll say it real quickly. I respect the word stuck. It's a beautiful thing. It's important that we get stuck because our brain can only handle so much.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also the impact is the 10-year-old at some point is probably going to go to school, whether it's homeschooling or in a school building with their peers, and what kinds of sounds or what kinds of silence or what kinds of smells or tastes are going to remind the child of that moment, that particular moment.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things. How do they manage all that? How do they even begin to articulate it to anyone? Well, it's because we are people who realize that child's story. So then we know, you know what, let's do activities that are around working out your senses.
Mm-hmm.
And then he or she gets to create each like big sheet of paper that is my sense and what I remembered seeing the day my dad died. I get to create the title. I get to write words or draw pictures. I get to say those things out loud, or I get to crumble it up, or I get to frame it. It's my work. Right. Anyway,
And I get to choose what I want to do with
I get to choose what I want to do with it. Oh,
it.
Kristen, can I say
Mhm.
something about choosing?
Please,
You just made
please.
me think of something so powerful. So important as we're developing to learn that we have choices in life. And sometimes that's a hard one to understand as we're growing and developing, and that's natural. That's really natural too. And it's also so healthy for us to learn that most often, well, I shouldn't say most often, but sometimes, there are a lot of different choices, a lot of healthy choices you could make here. There doesn't have to just be this choice or this choice, the extremes. Part of why I'm sharing this is when we've had the death of somebody important to us, talk about an extreme. They died. They are not physically coming back to me. And so our brains in that particular trauma can get the message, okay? Our 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-year-old brain can get the message that everything in life is either this or that.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't have choices. You see?
Yes. Because I didn't have a choice in their death.
I didn't. That's giving me chills too, Kristen, and so that's where, as adults, when we're with persons who are grieving at all ages, but especially of our youngers, right? Our, young people, is to offer choices. So we do that. We do that in our all of our programming, and it's from the simplest of things. I wonder if you want to do this activity or this activity, and then I love it when they say no. I want to do the third one. It's like,
Yeah,
great,
neither of those.
right? It's like either one's okay, and they can look at you like, are you sure?
Because you have no agenda. Like you said, you're meeting them where they are and letting them show you.
Yes, yes. So then they can go into their young adulthood, their adulthood, which that's the goal, right? For them to have their most thriving, flourishing life. Because like you said, when we're in the throes of our grief journey, no matter what point, it can feel like I'm not thriving so much at whatever point. And how can I in the midst? I can, because I can learn that I don't have to say yes to everything. I can if I learn that I don't just shut out and say no to everything and push everything away and everyone. I can learn, oh, there's a lot in between. And that in between is what my real yes is, what my real no is, what my real likes or kind of sort is. Or we do a lot of, like, on a scale, like if somebody talks about being angry, it's like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 100, scale of 1 to 10, which number do you feel right now? Like you were talking about naming, that really helps us. Like, it's like, oh, I thought I was really angry, but it's more like a 6. It's like, oh, okay, teach me more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you're talking about the to know, to feel, to
Yeah.
do, is one
Yes.
of the to do's. Walk us through the to do. I don't know if it's
To
segued into
do,
some of the.
you're just a great host. I love
Well,
this. Love this conversation. Well, you
this is great. This is
are.
so helpful, Carol.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, just such an honor. Such an honor to share what people have taught me.
And now you're
It's
teaching
really,
others.
it's
That's the
just,
beauty.
that's what I'm grateful for.
Yes.
To
Yes.
do,
To
Kristen,
do.
is the epitome of who am I now?
Mm.
That's loaded.
And deep. Because it changes, right?
Changes. It's like, wait, I was 6, right? So that 7-year-old is not the 7-year-old that you were going to be. Just no way to figure out who that was. So it's like, well, who am I? It's
Mhm.
different. It's different. Everything about my whole life, my whole being is different. Who am I now? And just what you said, it changes.
Mhm.
And we didn't get to choose that path. We didn't, like you said, we didn't get to choose that.
Yes.
No, we didn't get to choose that would be the reality, that it doesn't change, but we do get to choose every step of our path and our actions and our choices. How do we confront that I am different now? How do I embrace or not who I am now? How do I even begin to get to know who I am now?
And wow, that's powerful work.
Sure is.
Mhm.
People, often I hear this more with old, like, teens on up, but it's just very much like feeling like a limb. You had your arm cut off
Yes.
and you don't have it anymore. That is how visual, how palpable living with the death of somebody important to you really is. Because what we hear from persons who do really deal with living with a limb that is no longer there, they can still feel like it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody else sees that.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Powerful.
Yes, very, very powerful.
So the work of grief, there's a lot in that to know, to feel, to do, and it's not in an order. I
Mm-hmm.
have it like I go to bed, I have a dream, right? That my mommy, right, was alive. We were hugging, and then I wake up, and I might run around the house. Where's mommy? Where's mommy? And then dads or older siblings looking at me like, right, because they're the sibling, like that's
Mm-hmm.
natural. Why is she doing that? And then it hits the child like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Then my to feel, then my to know, oh, is more real. The more I to know, grief is more real. Then it becomes more of a reality of who am I now? Who is our family now? The to do. The to do. There's a video that we show our trainees. It's called What About Me? And they show kids and teens and what they're experiencing in their grief journey. And there's this little boy, and his baby brother had died, and it doesn't show the person asking questions. You can't hear the questions, but you can tell what the question is, because this little boy, he says, well, he goes, there used to be, he's probably no more than 6 or 7. He said, there used to be 4 people in my family. And he put it out there just so
Mm-hmm.
to know. And then he said, and now he's working so hard. He goes, now there are 3. And I just thought, wow, that's a powerful visual of how hard grief is,
Mm-hmm.
and the work of grief. That's an example of to do.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
Who's our
example.
family now? Who am
Yes.
I now?
Yes.
Oh,
This has been
Kristen.
such a wonderful time spending with you. As we wrap up, what are a
Yes.
couple of takeaways for people navigating grief? And that maybe 3 things you would say, here are 3 takeaways for our
Mm-hmm.
time together. What would those be as it
Oh,
relates to grief?
oh, I love it. Great question. It's been such a great, I'm so grateful to be here too, Kristen. Number one, every single thing that you're going through in your grief journey is natural. Natural. Natural.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to question it. But please come back to telling yourself, it's natural what I'm going through. Natural. There's nothing wrong with you. Okay. Number 2, what you need in your grief journey is what you need. Some people need to go watch a funny movie. Some people need to go watch a sad movie. Some people need to go walk with a bunch of friends. Some people need to walk by themselves. Some people need to cry. Some people need to laugh. Some people just need to be quiet, and it's all okay. So be you in this grief journey unapologetically,
Mm-hmm.
or just get some new people in your fold who will accept you, right?
Yes.
And number 3, you have time. It doesn't feel like it, but you have time. Notice I did not say time heals all wounds. None
Mm-mm.
of that. I didn't say that. I said you and your precious grief journey has time. Time for you to care for it, time for you to nurture it. And in that time, you're not alone.
Carol, thank you so much. If someone needs to get in contact with Brooke's Place, so
Mm-hmm.
they have a kid, a teen, a young adult who
Um,
really needs that support, how can they
yes.
find Grief's or Brooke's Place?
Please reach out to us. We are at www.brooksplace.org. Brooke is with a KES.
Bit in the chat here.
So brooksplace.org, 317-705-9650.
I can't see without my glasses, so hopefully I put it
You
in there
got
right.
it. You got it. I have mine on. That's great.
Okay, good.
Please reach out.
Yes, and they are wonderful. A quick story, real quick, before we wrap up about Pamela, Pam. Did she go by Pamela or Pam?
It
Or both?
depended, but
Because it
usually
seemed like,
Pam.
okay, Pam, that's what I thought. It seemed like she had it both ways. I was telling Carol before we got on that she actually, about probably would have been 10 years ago, 9 years ago, about 10 years ago, did my family counseling with my mom and I. And she died shortly after we had started. And I've never seen a more gifted therapist, honestly, ever. She was one of the angels. And I just had that sense she was here on a very clear, with a clear purpose. And so it's just an honor to see in your connection with her, and then how she just, what was on her heart to start Brooke's Place. So I just thought I'd share that to honor her memory, and what she's created is giving and giving and giving. So one person's grief, look what it turned into.
Yes.
I mean, it's really something, and a testament to leaning in to the hard spaces and what it can do, the ripple effect it can create. So thank you, Carol, for your time and your heart. We appreciate you being here and sharing all your wisdom with us. We could talk about this topic for so long, and we'll have you back on to go even deeper into it. So thank you, and for being with us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. You matter, you're important, and you're loved. And we are grateful for you to be here with us, either live or on the replay. Thanks. Have a good one.